I'm Philip Sabin, and this video illustrates the gameplay of my Legion II expansion, which allows all 35 of the ancient land engagements covered in my 2007 book Lost Battles to be refought with simple fast play rules based on those included to cover the single introductory scenario of Zama in my earlier 1997 game Legion. Legion was republished by the Society of Ancients in 2015 with beautiful full-colour cut-out and play components created by Justin Swanton, and this edition is still available for purchase from the Society website. To play Legion 2, you will need to own either edition of Legion for access to the basic rules and illustrated examples of play. The map, terrain overlays and unit counters provided in Legion suffice to play all 35 Legion 2 scenarios as a board game, with no extra components required. The rules tweaks and revised scenarios in Legion 2 are available for free download from the Legion page on BoardGameGeek. My Lost Battles book is still available for purchase in digital form from Bloomsbury Publishers, and provides detailed historical and design notes on my reconstruction of the 35 engagements concerned. Legion 2 offers an ideal complementary perspective to the Lost Battles rules themselves, since not only is the new system significantly simpler, far simpler than in the original full Legion rules, but its higher resolution compared to the more abstract square grid in Lost Battles makes unit positions look more realistic and gives greater scope for player tactical skill. The finer hex grid also allows distinct modelling of medium infantry and cavalry, which are faster but less resilient than their heavy counterparts. Cavalry, chariots, elephants, light infantry and legionaries appear as more numerous smaller units for greater flexibility, and the need to use free deployment is a welcome counterpoint to the historical deployments usually used when playing Lost Battles. Legion was also designed for use with miniature figures, and it includes full instructions on creating the hex cloth and simple terrain required. This picture shows the original fast play Zama scenario being played recently with my own 6mm figures. For this sample game of Legion 2, I've chosen to refight the battle fort at the river Cremissus in western Sicily, between the Greeks and a large Carthaginian invasion force in around 341 BC. Legion 2 scenarios consist of just a few lines of abbreviated notes as shown, making it easy for you to develop your own scenarios for engagements not covered in the expansion itself. The battlefield was a plain bounded by a range of hills, from which streams ran down to flow into the Cremissus River. The beauty of using a hex cloth is that it allows even complex and extensive terrain like this to be modelled very simply, with hills raised by putting clothes beneath the sheet, and strands of wool on top to show the precise contour lines, and with watercourses shown by strips of blue satin cloth, and trees shown by scattered pine cones. The 11,000 Greeks are modelled by the 15 units shown, with each figure in this scenario representing around 30 real troops. The coloured dice distinguish the opposing armies and show each unit's points value from 1 to 4. There are 4 units of average medium cavalry, supported by 2 units of average light infantry, all worth just 1 point each. The best Greek troops are the 3 mercenary units of veteran medium infantry, worth 4 points each, with Timoleon as an inspired leader at their head. There are also 6 units of average hoplite heavy infantry, worth 2 points each, representing the Syracusan and allied citizen troops. Timoleon's value of 8 brings the total value of the Greek forces to 38 points. The Carthaginian host outnumbers the Greeks by 3 to 1, but their quality is poor, with almost all of the 38 units worth just 1 point each, and so routing after a single hit. The mounted component consists of 6 units of 4-horse chariots, supported by 2 double units of levy medium cavalry. There are 10 units of heavy infantry to represent the Carthaginians themselves, with 3 of them being average units worth 2 points each to show the elite sacred band. The mass of mercenary and subject troops from Africa, Iberia and the Celtic world are shown by 16 units of levy medium infantry and 4 double units of levy light infantry. Hasdrubal and Hamilcar are uninspired commanders worth 2 each, bringing the total value of the Punic forces to 45 points. The crucial weakness which offsets their overwhelming numbers is that Timoleon has caught them crossing the Crimmisus River, so they count as surprised and may bring on just 4 units per turn across the ford. In its player turn, each army moves its units and then attacks adjacent enemy units. Actions are limited by commands, which number 1 for every point of surviving generals and 1 for every full 2 points of unrouted units. It usually costs 2 commands to deploy each unit on turn 1, so the Greeks with 23 commands would normally be able to enter only 11 of their 15 units. However, armies which surprise their opponents pay the standard 1 command move cost, even on turn 1, so Timoleon is able to bring on his entire army as he races down the hill to exploit his temporary advantage. All units start from their central deployment hex in any facing, with heavy infantry having a move allowance of 2 hexes, medium and light infantry 3, chariots 4 and medium cavalry 5. Non-light troops must pay 1 move point for each facing change, and horsemen must pay 2 move points to enter a hill hex, unless down to their last move point. In smaller battles like this one, hoplites may opt to deploy in deeper double units if desired, and Timoleon opts to combine 2 of his hoplite units in this way, while keeping the rest in single units to avoid encirclement by the Punic hordes. The chariots count at half the rate of all the other Punic units towards the turnly deployment limit. So, since they're also faster, and will panic first when 4 Punic units are routed, the Carthaginians make the most of their contribution by deploying all 6 chariot units this turn, together with the 1 double cavalry unit which fits within the turnly limit. Surprised units must pay 2 commands each to deploy on any turn, but the 14 command cost to deploy the 7 units fits comfortably for now within the Punic total of 24 commands. The river does not delay deploying units, but it costs 2 move points for units to leave a stream hex. Hasdrubal is now placed in the deployment hex and shifted 4 of the 5 allowed hexes to join one of the chariot units. On turn 2, Timoleon still has more than enough commands, so he leads his mercenaries forward at the double, while the cavalry and light infantry advance and turn forward on the flanks, and the hoplites march slowly up behind. The Carthaginians decide not to deploy their 2nd cavalry unit, even though it will rout with the chariots regardless. They opt instead to deploy 3 Punic heavy infantry units, with a double light infantry unit ahead as a screen. The 8 command cost of this deployment still leaves more than enough commands to move all the mounted units already on the board for 1 command each. So the chariots and cavalry turn forward and form a line, whose advanced centre with Hasdrubal stays just far enough from Timoleon's veterans to slow their progress and escape attack, thanks to the 2 move point cost for infantry to enter a hex next to enemy horsemen. On turn 3, the urgency of capitalizing on Punic disarray tempts Timoleon to risk sending his lead cavalry units on both flanks a full move forward to attack the ends of the enemy chariot line. The other Greek units advance as fast as possible in support, though the delays caused by crossing the streams mean that the lone attackers are dangerously exposed. Each unit's attack costs 2 extra commands, but since the Greeks have used only 14 of their 23 commands to move the army, there are more than enough spare. Combat in Legion II is a very simple process, in which attackers score a hit if their total strength equals or exceeds the defending unit's strength plus a random die roll. All units in these initial combats have the standard basic strength of 3, but lone attacking units benefit from a +1 modifier, so each cavalry unit has a +1 differential, and hence a 1 in 6 chance of routing the defending chariots. The Punic defence rolls are 6 and 2, so despite a narrow miss on the right, Timoleon's gamble does not pay off, and the chariots remain intact to counterattack in their own player turn. In normal circumstances, the whole Punic mounted force could make a devastating riposte. But the Carthaginians are caught by the rule that any units still undeployed after 10 turns, or only 4 turns for unsurprised armies, automatically rout. If they are to avoid this fate, the Carthaginians can afford very few delays in deploying new units and advancing those already entered to make room. They therefore spend 12 of their 24 commands moving up the infantry entered last turn and deploying 4 more heavy infantry units, including the renowned Sacred Band. A further 3 commands are spent to charge the right flank cavalry into action, and to manoeuvre both chariot units on the left flank to counterattack, with the unengaged unit paying 3 move points to move next to the enemy after changing facing. Since generals can never be within 2 hexes of another friendly general to reflect their division of command responsibilities, Hamilcar remains undeployed for now, to avoid hindering Hasdrubal's retreat to the infantry when the chariots eventually break. Hasdrubal remains with his current unit for now, since if he transfers to an engaged unit, he cannot give it an attack bonus this turn. The 4 attacking units use 8 of the 9 remaining commands. It would have been pointless using the other command to advance another Punic unit, since it could not then have attacked. Both combats are standard 2-on-1 engagements with differentials of +3. On the Punic right, the Greek cavalry roll 4 and so narrowly survive, but on the Punic left, the Greek cavalry roll 1 and are routed, giving first blood to the Carthaginians. On turn 4, Greek commands fall to 22, now that their unit points are down to 29. Timoleon at last leads his veterans in to engage the central chariots, with more cavalry and skirmishers joining the Greek horse already engaged on the left, and with the hoplites crossing the streams to take up position on the flanks as they did historically. The remaining Greek cavalry on the right fall back on the stationary light infantry so as to stay out of reach of another turn and charge by the victorious chariots. These moves use up 11 commands, leaving 11 for the forthcoming attacks. The Greeks start with the standard 2-on-1 combat between their left flank cavalry and the enemy horsemen, but on a Punic roll of 4, the defending cavalry just survive. The leftmost veterans now combine with the skirmishers in the stream to engage a chariot unit. Light infantry suffer no attack penalty against chariots, so the accompanying veteran unit strength of 4 rather than 3 gives a differential of +4. On a roll of 2, the chariots flee. Only 3 commands remain for the last 2 attacking units, but the Greeks take advantage of the rule whereby the last remaining command can activate a final attacking unit with a -1 modifier. Timoleon's +2 attack bonus raises his guard unit's strength to a fearsome 6. So even with the other veteran unit's strength cut back to 3 by this rule, the attack automatically succeeds with a differential of +6, and the hapless chariot unit routs. Punic commands are down to 23, now that their unit points have fallen to 39. The Carthaginians opt to continue moving up their reserves at maximum rate, and to deploy 4 faster medium infantry units to reach the front as quickly as possible. The chariots and cavalry still in action are joined by a single bold heavy infantry unit for their final hurrah. All these moves cost 15 commands, leaving 8 for attacks. Hamilcar finally enters the board and joins the leftmost infantry unit to avoid constraining Hasdrubal's freedom of movement. The 8 remaining commands neatly activate all 4 attacking Punic units. The chariots and cavalry on the right attack first in another standard 2-on-1 combat, and on a Greek roll of 2, the defending cavalry unit this time breaks and runs. In the centre, Hasdrubal's chariots at last get to attack the veteran mercenaries in conjunction with the advancing Carthaginian foot. The attack bonuses for Hasdrubal and for fresh heavy infantry attacking medium infantry give a +4 margin, even over the veterans' defence strength of 4, but a lucky Greek roll of 5 keeps the mercenaries fresh for the moment. The turn hence ends with honours even, at 2 points of routed units each. On turn 5, Timoleon's priority is to rout the 2 further Punic units needed to make the enemy chariots and cavalry break and run. If any of the Punic units he routs are infantry, this will take the Carthaginians even further towards their final panic threshold of 20. The Greek mercenaries and hoplites advance along the stream on the right, and the right flank cavalry re-engage the enemy chariots, with the light infantry unable to join them due to the 2 move point cost for infantry moving next to enemy horsemen. The manoeuvres use 7 of the Greeks' 22 commands, leaving plenty to support the 6 attacking units. The Greeks begin with the long shot attacks by their lone cavalry units on the flanks, and this time they get lucky on the left, where the Punic cavalry rout on a roll of 1. The chariots on the other flank brush off the onslaught with a roll of 5. But when Timoleon and his flanking veterans attack Hasdrubal's central chariots, even the penalty for the mercenary guard having friends in front does not prevent another automatic victory with a differential of +6. Commanders do not risk their lives to cancel hits, as do leaders, so Hasdrubal opts to displace to the light infantry to his right rear to avoid constraining Hamilcar, and will be unable to provide an attack bonus in his own player turn. The Carthaginians reach their first panic threshold of 4, so their 3 remaining chariot units plus the undeployed cavalry instantly rout. The leftmost Greek veterans now combine with the skirmishers in the stream to counterattack the abandoned Punic heavy infantry. Having 2 massed units behind to support them would normally cancel the light infantry's attack penalty against massed troops or cavalry. But hoplites or archers do not provide such support, since they rarely employed skirmish screens. The net attack differential is hence +3, so on a roll of 4, the Carthaginians just avoid paying the price for their bold advance. It's lucky for Timoleon that one of his long-shot cavalry attacks succeeded, or the Punic mounted units would have avoided panic for another precious turn. With just 33 points of units left unrouted, Carthaginian commands are now down to 20, creating acute tensions given the continuing 8 command cost per turn of deploying the rest of the infantry across the river. The Carthaginians opt to pull their advanced infantry back into the main line, and later shift Hasdrubal across to join them, while Hamilcar's wing advances along the left-hand stream to extend the line in this direction and confront the spearhead of the Greek attack. 2 more heavy and 2 more medium infantry units are deployed, primarily to support this advance on the left. The manoeuvres use 14 commands, leaving 6 for the 3 attacking units. First, the heavy and medium infantry combine to attack the leading veteran mercenaries. The bonus for fresh heavy infantry attacking mediums offsets the veterans' higher defence strength, so the differential is +3 as in standard 2-on-1 combats. The Greeks roll 3, so the veterans this time become spent, which I indicate by replacing their white die with a black one. The other Carthaginian heavy infantry unit now attacks the double hoplites. Normally it would have no chance, despite the +1 bonus for a lone attacker, because all units worth 4 points have a strength of 4. However, Hamilcar's presence gives an extra attack bonus, so there's a 1 in 6 chance of hitting this valuable unit also. On a roll of 4, it is not to be, and the turn ends with 4 times more Punic than Greek units routed, and just 1 4-point Greek unit spent to even the balance. On turn 6, Timoleon knows that he must exploit to the full his more numerous attack opportunities over the next few turns, before the Carthaginian army deploys fully and can focus all its commands on the frontal battle. The trouble is that only 1 Greek unit is already in a position to attack effectively without moving. Timoleon therefore leaves his cavalry and left-flank light infantry unactivated, and spends only 8 commands advancing his massed troops, leaving 14 commands to support the resulting 7 attackers. All 7 attacks focus on the enemy generals and heavy infantry, to preempt the enhanced threat which these forces pose. The leftmost veterans combine with hoplites in the stream to attack Hasdrubal's unit at +4, and on a roll of 4, the unit's withdrawal turns into uncontrolled flight, with Hasdrubal opting to displace to the Sacred Band behind. In the centre, Timoleon's guard and the other veteran unit have an irresistible +7 superiority, which automatically breaks a second Carthaginian unit. Against Hamilcar, the frontal attack is combined with flanking by light infantry, but since the skirmishers suffer an attack penalty against massed troops despite the hoplites behind, and also get in the way of the hoplites' attack, the differential is only +5. On a roll of 3, the defenders still rout, and Hamilcar displaces to the supporting medium infantry. The Carthaginians now have only 19 commands, and they decide that the time has come to commit the Sacred Band to try to defeat the lighter mercenaries and ideally kill Timoleon himself. They deploy just 1 heavy and 2 medium infantry units across the river, and confine their other moves to pulling the skirmishers back out of the Sacred Band's way and advancing some medium infantry on the right to threaten the Greek flank. Units in Legion II may never enter an occupied hex, so correct sequencing of moves is key to allowing the skirmishers to withdraw. Punic restraint in moving means that 8 commands remain to support the 4 crucial attacks. On the right, the Sacred Band has a +4 differential due to the bonus for fresh heavies attacking mediums, with Hasdrubal giving no extra benefit due to his recent displacement. On a roll of 4, the Greeks just fail to stop a second veteran unit becoming spent. On the left, against the already spent mercenaries, there's only a +3 differential, because one of the attacking units is itself medium. So on a similar roll of 4, the Greeks narrowly avoid further damage. The turn ends with the Greek line still mainly intact, and poised to deliver another devastating counterblow. On turn 7, Timoleon spends just 5 commands advancing units on both flanks, so that no fewer than 9 units may attack using the remaining 17 commands. The cavalry unit on the left does not suffer the prohibitive -1 penalty it would against heavy infantry, but its long-shot lone attack on the advancing medium infantry still fails dismally on a Punic roll of 6. The nearby skirmishers and hoplites have only a +2 advantage over the Carthaginian infantry in the stream due to the light infantry penalty, and their attack too fails on a Punic roll of 5. On the other flank, the hoplites and skirmishers have a +3 superiority over Hamilcar's unit due to the bonus for fresh heavy infantry attacking mediums, and this time the defenders break on a roll of 1, with Hamilcar displacing to the infantry behind. The rightmost veterans and fresh double hoplites have a +5 differential against the other Punic medium infantry unit, despite the penalty for having friends in front. But on a lucky roll of 6, this unit stands its ground against the odds. The other two veteran units with Timoleon enjoy an overwhelming +6 superiority over the middle unit of the Sacred Band, despite the penalty for activating one unit with the single final command. So the defenders automatically become spent, shown by swapping from a blue to a green die. The Carthaginians have been lucky to have just one more unit routed this turn, but their commands still fall further to 18. Now that fighting has spread all along the line, Hasdrubal and Hamilcar face a fateful choice. They could stop bringing their remaining infantry across the river, and focus all their commands instead on trying to defeat the Greeks with their existing deployed forces. But if they fail to do so by the end of turn 10, the resulting fear of abandonment will cause their troops to make a break for the fords. They decide to hedge their bets by entering just one more medium infantry unit this turn, and advancing 4 units on the flanks for a total of 6 commands, leaving 12 commands for 6 attacks. Hamilcar cannot give a bonus due to his displacement, so he transfers to an adjacent heavy infantry unit. The heavy and medium infantry on the left combine for a standard +3 attack on the Greek skirmishers, who suffer a hit on a roll of 3. The Greeks could save the unit from routing by making the adjacent hoplites spent instead. But since another hoplite unit is ready to move up and counterattack the Punic medium infantry, they decide it's preferable to let the skirmishers disperse. In the centre, the medium infantry, who withstood the Greeks, combine again with the leftmost Sacred Band unit to re-engage the spent mercenaries in another +3 attack. This time, the mercenaries roll only 2, and the hit they suffer must be transferred if the Greek line is not to rupture. Timoleon could transfer the hit to his guard, and have a 50% chance of cancelling it due to his inspired leadership. But the risks of failure, now that both his flanking veteran units are spent, persuade him to make the double hoplites on the other side spent instead, which is possible because they're worth 4 points, like the veterans. The final paired attack on the other spent mercenaries has the same +4 differential as last turn, because the loss of the fresh bonus by the central Sacred Band unit is offset by Hasdrubal now being eligible to add his own bonus. On a Greek roll of 1, the Punic run of luck continues, and Timoleon does this time transfer the hit to his guard and make his crucial saving roll. As an inspired infantry leader, a roll of 1 or 2 would cause him to be killed or badly wounded on a further roll of 1, which would be a catastrophe for the Greeks. He instead scores 4, which is just enough to negate the hit and keep his guard fresh. Carthaginian good fortune this turn nevertheless leaves them with a chance of turning the tide in future turns if they can only break the fragile Greek centre before they themselves are broken. On turn 8, Timoleon gambles on keeping his wavering troops engaged to try to defeat the Sacred Band and so panic the rest of the Punic host. His commands are now down to 21, and he spends 4 of them to advance cavalry and infantry on the flanks, again leaving 17 commands for his 9 attacking units. The double hoplites and rightmost veterans try again to see off the stubborn unit in the stream. Their advantage is only +4 now that the hoplites are spent, but on a roll of 4 the defenders narrowly fail to stand for a second turn, with the Carthaginians rejecting the option of making the adjacent Sacred Band unit spent instead. Timoleon's guard attacks this Sacred Band unit with a +4 differential thanks to the lone unit bonus, but on a roll of 5 the Punic citizens resist the pressure. The other veterans and hoplites attack Hasdrubal's Sacred Band unit with a similar differential of +4, and on a roll of 2 this unit proves less resilient and becomes spent. Away on the left, the cavalry have been joined by the light infantry for their attack on the Punic medium infantry, raising the differential to +2, but on a roll of 3 the defending unit once again survives. The hoplites on the right now attack to avenge the lost skirmishers. the fresh Greek heavies have a +4 superiority over the Punic medium infantry, despite the penalty for using the single last command, and with a dismal roll of 1, the unit routs. The Carthaginians have now had 14 points of units routed, bringing their commands down further to only 17. They decide not to deploy any more troops this turn, even though this means that at least 2 of their 10 units still undeployed will rout at the end of turn 10. 4 commands are spent advancing light and medium infantry on both flanks, leaving 13 commands to support 7 attacks. The medium infantry on the right start by counter-attacking the enemy skirmishers in a standard +3 attack, and on a roll of 2, this other Greek light infantry unit routs. The 2 spent Sacred Band units now combine against the spent veterans, with Hasdrubal increasing the differential to a similar +3. The mercenaries roll 5 and stand firm. The other crucial attack in the centre also has a +3 differential, due to the Sacred Band units still being fresh. But on a roll of 4, the veterans narrowly survive the onslaught without Timoleon having to make another risky saving throw. Only 1 command remains to activate Hamilcar's unit, with the resulting penalty offsetting his own bonus, and leaving only the +1 advantage from the lone unit bonus. As some compensation for Punic failure in the centre, the hoplites roll a 1, and so become spent anyway in this long-shot attack. Success on the wings does not change the fact that Timoleon's exhausted mercenaries have held off the Sacred Band's desperate onslaught for another crucial turn, and are poised for decisive retaliation. On turn 9, the Greeks spend 2 commands pulling back their left flank cavalry and shifting their reserve hoplites left across the stream to shore up this wing. The remaining 19 commands are more than enough to support their 7 attacks. The hoplites on the right have only a standard +3 differential against the Punic light infantry, because the fresh heavies get no bonus against these more elusive opponents. On a roll of 1, the skirmishers flee regardless. The rightmost veterans and double hoplites have a +4 differential against the new medium infantry unit in the stream, and on a roll of 3, this too routs. Timoleon's guard tries again to hit the only Sacred Band unit still fresh, but on a roll of 6, this unit once more stands firm despite the guard's +4 advantage. The leftmost veterans and hoplites have the same +4 differential against Hasdrubal's spent Sacred Band unit, and on another roll of 2, like last turn, this breaks and runs, with Hasdrubal opting to displace to the adjacent Sacred Band unit. The Carthaginians have now had 18 points of units routed, so they are bound to reach their panic threshold of 20 by the end of turn 10, and their only option is to inflict as much further damage as they can before then to inhibit the Greek pursuit. They spent 4 of their 15 commands turning and advancing units on the flanks, leaving 11 commands to support their 6, probably final, attacks. Hamilcar begins with another lone attack on the spent enemy hoplites, this time with a +2 differential, since he's using the full 2 commands. If the hoplites are hit again, they will rout, since the adjacent fresh hoplites cannot absorb the hit because they're not next to the attacking unit. However, this turn the hoplites roll 5 and stand their ground. The 2 remaining Sacred Band units now combine against Timoleon's guard with a +3 differential, Hasdrubal being unable to assist due to his displacement. On a roll of 6, the guard easily remains fresh, without Timoleon needing to risk another personal intervention. The final attack sees 1 heavy and 2 medium infantry units combine against the hoplites in the stream. The heavy infantry have friends in front and also use the single last command, so their attack strength falls to 1 rather than the normal minimum of 2. The differential is +4, so on a roll of 4, the defending hoplites become spent. This is a meagre payoff for the final Punic attacks, doubtless because the troops are increasingly preoccupied with not being last in the imminent race back to the fords. On turn 10, Timoleon's priority is to rout 2 more points of Punic units, so as to deny the enemy a last chance to attack before they panic. He uses 4 of his 21 commands to advance cavalry and infantry on the flanks, leaving 17 commands to support up to 9 Greek attacks if required. The cavalry and fresh hoplites on the left begin by attacking the outflanking medium infantry, with a differential of +3 because the hoplites' bonus for being fresh is offset by their horsemen being in front. The defenders rout on a roll of 2. The rightmost veterans now attack the fresh unit of Sacred Band, with a +2 differential due to the lone unit bonus. On a roll of 6, the Punic citizens continue to stand firm. Timoleon's guard turns its attention to the spent Sacred Band unit with Hasdrubal, but on a roll of 5, this unit too remains defiant despite the +4 differential, with no need to transfer a hit to its fresh colleagues. The leftmost veterans and spent hoplites make a similar +4 attack on the neighbouring medium infantry, and on a roll of 3, this unit proves to be the weak link, as its defeat brings the total points of Punic units routed to the final threshold of 20, causing all the other Carthaginian units and generals, both on and off the field, to panic and flee. There is no need for Timoleon to fall back on his final option of a 3-on-1 attack on Hamilcar's heavy infantry, which has a differential of only +3 because it would rely on a single last command. Just as happened historically, the disadvantaged Punic forces eventually break and run, despite their overwhelming numbers, and despite a stubborn last stand by the Sacred Band. Since most of the battles in Legion II realistically give the historical victors more chance of securing battlefield victory than their opponents, the rules offer a simple balancing system for competitive play, in which players bid to command the favoured army, thereby generating a handicap bonus for its opponents. Had this system been in use in the current refight, the Greeks would have gained 32 victory points for routing 16 points of Punic units by direct attack, plus 29 victory points for routing the other 29 points of Punic units and generals by panic, giving them a total score of 61. The Carthaginians would have scored 8 victory points for routing 4 points of Greek units by direct attack, plus 16 victory points for the 16 points of Greek units which ended the game spent, plus the handicap bonus. The Greeks performed well in this contest after some tense moments on turn 7, and it's unlikely that bids to command them would have reached the 38 victory points or more needed to convert the current outcome into a Carthaginian game victory. However, the calculation shows how the handicap system works, allowing Legion II to be a tense and balanced competitive game, as well as a simple and solitaire-friendly simulation of historical battle dynamics. I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to Legion II, and that it's given you a clearer sense of how the systems work and how the game plays. As the picture shows, it's just one of many games and conversions I've designed recently, spanning most eras of military history, with most of them available for free download online. Just Google Sabin Wargames to find my website, which has further details and download links for these many designs. Fans of my Lost Battles and Legion games on ancient warfare may be especially interested in my simplified horse and foot rules and scenario tweaks for the ever-growing series of horse and musket games by Sean Chick and Johan Bratström. The simple hex-based gameplay in Horse and Foot has many similarities with Legion II, and I've already posted scenario amendments covering a similar number of 17th century battles, with scores more yet to come covering later engagements as time permits. The picture shows refights of Breitenfeld and Naseby using components from Hold the Line and other games. In issues 338 and 339 of the Society of Ancients journal Slingshot, I have a pair of articles discussing comparative refights of Pereitokene and Gabiene in the Successor era and Breitenfeld and Lutzen from the 30 Years' War, using my Lost Battles and Horse and Foot rules respectively. As I said, Legion 2 may be downloaded freely from the Files section of the Legion page on BoardGameGeek. Since it builds on the basic rules, examples of play, historical notes, and game components included in my Legion board game and Lost Battles book, still available from the Society of Ancients and Bloomsbury publishers respectively, it contains just 3 pages of concise add-on rules, and a further 5 pages of revised scenarios and design notes. The streamlined systems and varied scenarios in Legion 2 give both Legion and Lost Battles a whole new lease of life. You may post questions or share game experiences or additional scenarios on the Legion BGG page, or in my Lost Battles IO group. I look forward to hearing how you get on.